Welcome to Spittin with Spitter bonus edition Thursday night, 8 p.m. How's everybody doing out there? I am TJ Spitter. Before we get the show started, I'd like to shout out my sponsor, Lehigh Vape. They are located at 822 in Nazareth Pike. Go there for all your vaping needs, for all your hardware, for all your juices. They have everything that you can need. Go there. Tell them TJ sent you and they will take care of you. Now to introduce my guest. Is somebody I've known for some time, working in the addiction and recovery community. Amanda, how are you this evening?
Good. How are you?
It's good to see you.
Good to
I
see you
would
too.
like to I would like to start off before we get into everything that you do. Is it possible that you could share your story with the people that are watching on how you got here?
Sure. So I kind of jump all over the place a little bit when I talk about my story, so I apologize in advance.
That's fine.
I'll start off. Growing up, I didn't have the greatest childhood. I had the best childhood that my dad could provide for me and my sisters. My dad raised us. My mom was in and out. She's in my life now. But growing up, it was rough. When I was 9, I remember walking in and finding her pretty much almost completely dead on my couch. So I had to learn how to do things at a very early age in my life. And always, worrying and stressing as a child. It was an uneasy feeling, like growing up. I never knew if our lights were going to get shut off, or if our heat was going to get shut off, or if we were going to have food on the table, or if I was going to find something in the cabinet to eat that morning. And then as I got older, my dad started he got us a house. And, I grew up in Hunterdon County, New Jersey, and it was quiet, and we finally had a house, and I finally was able to ride my bike in a neighborhood and actually be a kid for a little while. And I got into high school. My freshman year, I made varsity cheerleading. I was very good at cheerleading. I did it since I was really young, since I was a kindergartner, and it was just something I really loved to do. And it was a way to express myself and be happy. It was also a place to escape. And then I got hurt, and I pretty much almost shattered my kneecap, and I was put on pain medication. And at the time, my dad was going through surgeries with his knees, and he had gotten 3 orthoscopic surgeries, and it made him get RSD in his leg. And he told the doctors, he's like, "You're not doing surgery on my daughter. I don't want you ruining her, like you did to me." And not realizing that, eventually I'd meet a guy in high school who came to the house, and, he saw my pill bottle sitting there, and I didn't like taking medication. I just stack them up there. I never take them. And to be honest, when you're a kid, sometimes we're so resilient. We don't feel that pain. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I literally was just moving out my life, had these pill bottles, and he came over and he was like, "Oh, these are great. Have you ever tried these?" And I'm like, "No, what are you talking about? This is medicine. Who wants to do medicine? Who wants to do medicine?" So eventually he asked me, he's like, can I have some? And I was like, sure. If you like to take medicine, go for it. I really did not understand at the time why he would want that. And then he crushed it up, and I was really young. I was 14. I was young, I was vulnerable, and he was like, "Well, if you love me, you'll sniff it." And I was like, "No, I'm not doing that." And it got to the point where I was like I got to do this, because if I don't, then I'm gonna lose my boyfriend, and I don't want to lose my boyfriend. And it was a bad situation. And I always tell kids now, don't do anything that you don't feel comfortable doing. You know what I mean? Because I made that choice, and it ruined the rest of my life pretty much. I sniffed, it was a Vicodin the first time, and it I literally felt like everything inside me was healed. It was done. I was good. Any ounce of pain that I didn't even realize was there was gone. I didn't have to feel anything. And I remember that night so clearly, and it will never leave my mind. I ran outside. I was so happy, and I was running up and down the street screaming, "I love laundry detergent." Don't know why, but I was just in a state of woohoo, and I still didn't, I kept taking them. I kept doing them. And like I became like a junior in high school, and we were going to prom, and that's when things started like really falling downhill. Like he had graduated when I became a senior, and I went into the nurse's office one day, and she was like, "Oh my God, you look like death. Like you look really sick." So she sent me home and drug tested my younger sister the next day. So they never drug tested me. They literally like just let me go, and I didn't realize at the time I was withdrawing from Oxycontin, because at that time I was introduced to the Oxycontin, the Percocets, and fentanyl and everything else, because my dad had like these fentanyl lollipops, and the guy that I was dating would take them from him. And so it was just I was doing all this stuff, but I never knew there was a withdrawal. And then like one time I was like really sick at home, and he had stopped by, and he was like, "Well, here, if you just take this, you'll feel better." And I did it, and I felt so much better. And then I guess that's when it clicked in my head that like, well, I can't do anything unless I have these. Like I can't function unless I have that. So like at this point, of all the pill bottles I accumulated, I was done. Like I had nothing left. So like I started keep going back to the doctors, and the doctors kept prescribing them to me because I legit did hurt my knee and didn't have surgery. So I would continue to get water on my knee. So there was always an excuse to get pain meds. And then, at like later on, it was pain medicine for a long time. And then, he moved out to Colorado because he wanted to smoke pot legally. And I was stuck at home with this huge addiction and this huge problem. And now he wasn't there to help me anymore. So I had to find my own ways to like get pain medicine and control my pain medicine. And then my family got involved, and my dad started taking my pills and like giving me them throughout the day so I wouldn't run out and, steal his pills. Cause that's what I would do. Like I would run out of my pills and then steal his pills. And, so then, after some time, they sent me to Connecticut to go live with my oldest sister. And at that time I was partying so hard that like, there was periods of times where I was selling cocaine out of my house, and, my dad had no idea, and I remember this one time I was with this coke dealer, and back in like he lived in Franklin Township, like down in Somerset County. I don't know if you know where that is.
Yeah.
And I was like I all messed up, and I told him, and it was coke and and I was like, I need Rihanna like right now. Like I wanted that song, Disturbia came out, and I wanted to hear that song. And like so he was driving me to go get the CD so I could just hear the song. And on the way there, we had gotten pulled over by New Jersey State Police. And he asked me before he left, should we take this huge rock with us? And I was like, no, just a little bit. So I had like this little packet, and I had it in my bra. And it like, I got searched, and I'm not joking you, by 6 state troopers on the side of the road, 6 different times. And I just felt it going down my leg, down my leg, down my leg. And I was wearing Ugg boots, and I felt it go into my Ugg boots, but they never found it. And like at that time I was so scared. I stopped selling the coke from my house. And how I got home was because he ended up getting arrested, and I had like, they impounded his truck. And so the state trooper was like, well, I can either take you home, or I can take you to Clinton Station Diner and someone can pick you up. And I was like, well, you're not taking me home. My dad will kill me, Right. And so my sister's now husband was the one who came and picked me up at Clinton Station Diner that morning. And so I went home. Before we actually got to my house, I took the coke out of my Ugg boots and I threw it in the woods. Cause like I was literally like, I'm never touching this again. Like, it was just, I was so all over the place, and I couldn't find like any peace inside me or any peace around me. It was like, now I'm in this freaking mess. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to try Suboxone. So then I went to my sister's in Hackstown and was trying Suboxone to get clean.
Right.
And I did for a little bit. And, I worked at A&P in Washington, and I met this guy, and he realized like, I was doing pills or this and that. And he was like, what's cheaper is like heroin. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'll never touch that shit though. Like it's not happening. Well, right. Our nevers come true, yeah. What happens in addiction. And so I started shooting heroin. I sniffed it one time, and it was off to the races with that shit. It was like, I was done. Like there was nothing better than that. And actually I have to say fentanyl was better than that, but that came a little bit later. And then I stopped working there, and I broken up with him, and I tried to get clean, and I met like my son's father, Tyler's dad, and I was like clean when I met him. Like he got me a couple methadone pills here and there, but like I was really like doing okay, like with the Suboxone. And I got pregnant with Tyler, and I went to my doctor, and they were like, well, you can't be on the Suboxone, and you can't, you know, do this or do that. And so they put me on Percocet the entire time I was pregnant with Tyler, because like literally they didn't want me to lose. I already had miscarried before Tyler. So like they didn't want me to lose Tyler. And I was unwilling to do methadone, because at that time I had heard that like it was much worse if you do methadone and like things like that. So when Tyler was born, I was lucky that he wasn't like really addicted to anything. They tried to tell me he had tobacco withdrawal. And I'm like, well, that's funny, because like I was born, my mom puffed the whole time. She probably smoked like 3 packs of cigarettes a day, you know?
Right.
So, but Tyler was healthy. He came out healthy. After he was born is when the domestic violence started. It started prior, but it wasn't like, it was more verbal and emotional. But the physical started a day after I got released from the hospital. And it only got worse from there. Like it got really worse. And there was times I'd wake up on the couch and don't know how I had gotten there. And the last time, and I'll never forget the date, it was June 6, 2012. I guess he had knocked me unconscious.
Jesus.
And my dad called the state police. So when I woke up, the state police were standing above me, and one of them was holding my son. And I was like, you know, I didn't know what happened. You know, it was really bad time in my life, because like I was also taking higher pain medication after I had Tyler, because I had complications, and of course it was like perfect, because, you know, I could get more pain pills, you know, and the whole fight had started over pain medication, because he was taking my pain medication and selling it for weed, or, you know, whatever, and doing some. And, you know, eventually that night, the cops made him leave my house, and there was a restraining order put in effect that I didn't put. Like the cops, I guess, automatically did it. And of course I dropped it. And I lost Tyler because of all those decisions that I made, dropping the restraining order. They couldn't catch me on doing any drugs. I was legally prescribed the drugs. And when I lost Tyler, the grandparents let me come there and visit. But as soon as they cut off the visits, like I was like, I pretty much had given up. I was like, there's no way I'm getting him back. You know, I couldn't do this alone. And I was a broken individual, like seriously broken. And so, you know, I started using heroin again. I called up the guy that introduced it to me the first time, and I was gone again. This time though, I lost a little less fear. Like I was like, okay, well now I'm going to go to Newark myself. Now I'm going to go get it myself. Now I'm going to drive my car and go get it, because my sister made me get my license. And so I went down, and I was buying it myself, getting it with him. And, you know, he was gone. And then, you know, I met new people, and it just heroin became my life for a long time. And then I was arrested for the first time, and it was in and out about 5 times. My uncle was bailing me 5 or 6 times. My uncle was bailing me in and out of jail. And sometimes I didn't get locked up there's one serious charge. And then the rest were like traffic tickets. They would just pick me up for traffic tickets just because they would, you know, just because they knew what I was doing. And I don't think it was because they were assholes or anything. I think they just knew that, like, you know, hey, if we don't put her in jail, she's going to be the next one that we freaking pick up off the floor dead.
Right.
And they were kind of nasty, but at the same time, like, you know, they were mad because, you know, they'd come to the house because he was beating me and I wouldn't press charges. And it became a ritual for them. And like, no matter what they did or what they said, it wasn't getting through to me. So I can understand their frustration, but at the same time, like at the time I was really mad at them. Like, leave me alone. Let me do what I want to do, pretty much.
Right.
It wasn't until like the last time I went to jail, I was offered drug court, and I was going every week and like observing. And I had failed 11 drug tests for heroin. And the 11th drug test I failed, I had pleaded, and that's when I was able to get sanctioned. So they sanctioned me, and they can't do that now, but back then they could. And they put me in jail pending treatment.
Right.
And I've never been on probation. I was only on PTI that I violated. And I remember saying to the judge, I was like, screw this, I'm not doing it. I'm gonna go on probation, I'm gonna get a bail, and I'm gonna go home. And I had like a moment of clarity. And it happened on the way. Like I went in, like in Hunterdon, they have a tunnel that goes underground into the jail. And
right.
That's kind of when that moment of clarity happened for me. I was like, I can go home, or I can go home and die, or slowly kill myself, or I can go to jail. And at this time, I didn't even have a home. There was no running water in that house. There was no electric. There was no heat. So literally, I would sit in a room with just a kerosene heater. So, it was literally one or the other. And at that time, it was just like, all I wanted was help, and it was right in front of me. And it was either I could take it or just continue doing the same thing and end up here another year later or another 2 years later. And it just became real to me. I was like, well, this is the only way I'm going to get help.
Right.
And so I took it. And that's kind of when I like surrendered. And, I waited in jail through Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. And finally in February, I went to Treatment Center, and I went from there to Essex County, and I lived in Essex County for a while in Newark. And from Newark, I went to Anderson House and White House, and then I went to the 3/4 house, which was across the street from the halfway house. And at that point in time, like, things were getting better in life, and I could see, like, everything slowly evolving into, like, I got a job, like, and everybody in the house was working at McDonald's, and here I was working at like the Carpet One in Flemington, and I was making good money, and I was working 6 days a week. For once in my life, I had something I would wake up to and look forward to. And my little sister, my youngest sister, Melissa, she was like my saving grace. I mean, she put money on the phone when I was in jail. She came and picked me up from the first treatment center, which was all the way in Gloucester County. I don't know if you've ever heard of Maryville, but that's where I went.
Yeah.
She went all there to pick me up from Hunterdon County, then drove me all the way to Essex County, and then drove all the way back to Hunterdon County to go home, just to see me, because like we couldn't stop anywhere. So it was like literally there, and she came all the way down to Newark every weekend to see me on the visitation days. And then when I moved up to Anderson House, she came every weekend. And then one weekend she came up after her wedding, because she had told me right before I went to jail that if I wasn't 3 months sober, I wasn't allowed to be at her wedding. I was 9 months sober when I went to her wedding. And I was only allowed to see her get married. I wasn't allowed to go to the like celebration or whatever that is. I'm getting married in July. I don't even know what it's called.
Reception.
There you go. I'm not fancy. So, so like literally, I got to see her get married, and she had come after her honeymoon. She had come to visit me, and I noticed she wasn't smoking cigarettes. And I knew. I was like, "You're pregnant." And she was like, "How do you know?" And, at this time, I still wasn't able to see Tyler, and his grandparents were keeping me away from him the best they could. They'd keep me away. I mean, they tried to file for child support when I was incarcerated. And I was like, Your Honor, I was like, I'm addicted to heroin. I'm trying to go to treatment. I was like, not that I don't want to take care of my kid, but I can't. I'm addicted to drugs. And she was just like, I appreciate your honesty. And she suspended my child support. So when I started working and I got that job at Carpet One, I started paying child support, but I wasn't allowed to see him. And at the time, I wasn't ready to fight yet. It was very early in recovery. And so when Emily, my niece, was born, like, she just gave me every reason to live. Every moment I got off of work, I wanted to spend with her. Like, it was just like, I was just so grateful that she came into my life when she did, because if she didn't, I don't know where I'd be, because she really gave me this whole other reason. And my sister being there, I mean, they had to pay to actually visit with me at that Anderson house. They had to pay, like, to take classes to learn about enabling and all this other stuff so that they didn't enable me. So you know, she sold me her Honda Civic so I could have a car. So when I graduated, I got a car. So I was able to drive myself to and from work. I got my license back. Everything was coming back, and it was coming back slowly.
Right.
And everybody kept telling me in the rooms, like, you know, miracles do happen. You know, it just takes time. So like literally, like, you know, I would see these tiny little miracles happening, and, you know, like to some people it's not a big deal, but to me they were a huge deal. You know, they were like a big deal. And you know, around Christmas time, I really said to my probation officer, I was like, I really want to go home for Christmas. Like, I want to go home. I'm ready to go home. I just want to be home. And that, like, that summer before Christmas, it was the first time I really started doing things for the recovery community. And I started a barbecue with Drug Court, and I invited Somerset, Warren, and Hunterdon. We all came together at Hampton Park, and we had this huge cookout with speakers that came up from Atlantic County. And, you know, it was a really good time. And I was like, this is what life is about. You know, this is what it's about. And so I told my probation officer, I was like, you know, I want to be home for Christmas. I want to be able to spend Christmas with my family. And she made it happen, you know. And, you know, a lot of people don't have faith or trust in the system. But what I had all of it in them, because, like, I had no one else. You know, my dad was addicted to drugs. My mom wasn't around. So the only people besides, like, you know, the little family I did have at the time was them, you know, and everything they were doing for me was the right thing. It wasn't the wrong thing. You know, I had to realize that. And so I got clean November 22nd, 2013. I've been clean since. So
that's amazing. And I don't want to interrupt you, but we have some comments coming in. We have a Kelly Warming, Amanda, can I ask? And so I hope there's a follow-up question to that. Greg Winters, my guy, said, never put yourself down to where you feel like you can't get back up. Miracles happen. Your life is worth it. Absolutely. Like I tell people all the time, and I practice this myself. Like, don't leave until the miracle happens. You don't know when the miracle is going to happen. Just don't sit down, buckle up, you know, and
enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride. And don't leave until the miracle happens. Sorry about that. Can I ask, what year were you on Drug Court?
I was on Drug Court. I went on in 2013, and I graduated in 2016. So I did 3 years because I didn't get sanctioned. Whoop, whoop.
Normally it takes 4 for the people that don't know, you know,
5.
like 5. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's 5.
Yeah. Jeez.
So I was able to complete it in 3 years, sanction free. And I had some great people by my side. I actually had met Billy at the time, my last year on Drug Court. My dad had died when I was 2 years clean from a heroin overdose. So my story doesn't just end with me getting clean. You know, my son's father died of a heroin overdose on July 18th of 2018. So, you know, when my dad died, though, like, I got so angry at the drug. Like, I swear to God that if heroin had a face, and I don't mean to get emotional, but if heroin had a face that time, I probably would have shot it. That's how mad I was.
Right.
Like, how someone like me could overcome it, but my dad couldn't, when he was the strongest man in the world to me. And someone just left him there too. Like, didn't call the police, cleaned up all the drugs, and just locked the door and just left this person behind that had the biggest heart. Like, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have the heart I have today.
Oh my God.
So, yep, that's when I was on Drug Court.
Your hope is possible, right? Like, you
Yes.
sit there and recovery, it's a blessing. I want to talk about now and now I know you don't like light shed on this topic, because we are taught that we give back what was so freely given to us.
Yes.
All the works that you do in the community for the recovery community.
Yes. You want me to talk about it? Are you going to ask questions? Or
no,
okay.
I would like you to, you know, because I know you volunteer at different places, you work at different places, so go ahead.
Okay, so 2016, when my dad died, I started the Stand Up Against Heroin in Phillipsburg. Right. Before that, I opened up the recovery center in Hunterdon County. So in 2015, I opened up the recovery center in Hunterdon County. and I started fundraisers out there and trying to do things for people. And that's when I first started actually working with people like on the streets. My first call ever was a person addicted to methamphetamine on the side of the road on Route 31 in like Glen Gardner. And it was the first time I was ever face to face with that kind of situation. And, you know, that person's actually clean today. But I followed him around for 3 years. I'm not even joking. I even have who my now boss is help me go to this one house and find him, you know, because he didn't get it the first time. But I mean, you know, that's when I started like really going out in the streets, helping people. And then when I started to stand up against heroin, I was hired by an agency in Warren County, and I really just wanted to help. Like, I didn't care about anything else but helping people. I didn't care if I worked over my hours. I just didn't care, you know, like if the hospital called and they needed somebody, I was there. In the middle of Thanksgiving dinner, I was like, I gotta go. You know, someone overdosed, or someone's addicted to alcohol, or someone's addicted to something. And, you know, and it's crazy because it doesn't, you know, people who have like eating disorders and other type of disorders are just like us who get addicted to heroin. So even throughout my time, I've helped people with eating disorders, you know, and no matter what it was, I just wanted to help them. And so that's kind of where that started. And I worked for that agency for about 4 years. And then recently, you know, I started volunteering for Parent to Parent, and I'm just a volunteer. I take calls from the hospital. You know, I take calls from the police department here in Phillipsburg. And, you know, even on my own time, like I said, my own free time, if they call me up and they're like, hey, you know, I'll even say last night I got a call. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And, you know, like, oh, I hope it didn't wake you up. And I was like, no, actually, I'm still awake, unfortunately. So, you know, because usually I'm sleeping by like 9 o'clock because I'm an old grandma now. But, you know, I got up, I was contacting the detox, and, you know, and the thing is like, we're lucky to have officers out here, because the officers were actually driving this person to rehab the next day to the detox. And, you know, it's really like, it's a community effort. And that's
absolutely,
yeah, that's the thing about it. Like, I can go on helping people, but if we don't have like that community effort, it doesn't get very far. Right. But I'm just live in a place where people know where I come from, and they want to help me help other people. So I'm really grateful for that. And now I also am a case manager, the lead case manager at Safe Harbor in Easton. So that's a homeless shelter.
Right.
So I lived at the homeless shelter in Montclair, New Jersey for a little while. And, you know, I love my job there. It's so rewarding, because we're not just a homeless shelter. Like, the reason why I'm a case manager there is because those people come in, they're broken, they're homeless, they have nothing left. Some of them come in addicted. Some of them come in from the treatment, and they're still like trying to process, and they have nowhere to go. Some of them have mental health disorders, and they need somebody that's going to coach them and help them get to a better place in their life with budgeting, or, you know, getting them into the IOPs and treatments, and just talking to them when they're having a bad day. And one of the biggest questions I get asked is, you know, like, when does this withdrawal feeling go away? Especially from heroin. And, you know, the thing with heroin is there's something called post-acute withdrawal. So you could be a year and a half clean, driving down the road, and all of a sudden you'll get chills. And that's that demon trying to come back at you. And so please, like, if anybody on here is struggling, just listen to me right now. Like, that is a temporary thing. All you have to do is tell yourself, no, I'm okay. I haven't done drugs in a year and a half or 2 years. You're not getting me this time. It's not happening. You know, and a lot of self-talk is important. And I know people are like, oh, she's crazy, she talks to herself. No, the self-talk is very important.
I do the same. Like, yes. I know people look at me like I'm crazy. No, I talk myself through everything.
Yes, it's important. Yeah,
I have to. One question I have for you now, there was a point where you were working for one agency, I was working for another, and we were doing primarily the same thing.
Yes.
You know, we were going to meet people in hospitals, overdosed. How because this is something I had such a hard time with. How do you not bring everything home with you?
There's sometimes I have, but sometimes like I haven't, I got a lot of like support, like from the outside, that kind of helped me. So like if it was a really bad call, and some of them are tougher than others, as you know.
Most definitely.
There's been times where I've had to sit at the hospital until the doctor came in to say, hey, there's no brain activity. Your child is deceased. It's just up to you. We'll give you 72 hours to spend with them. And literally, like, those times are very hard. And a lot of people know Helen Carey, and she's been there through a lot of those times with me. And sometimes, like, I can talk to her. Well, most of the time, I just talk to her, and literally, when I'm done talking to her, it's over. Like, I have to let it go. And being in this job, I've lost people that I've worked with for years.
Right.
And those are hard times. And when I always am at their funerals, and I'm always there, and it does come home and it does get emotional. There is times where, my fiance is going to deal with me crying or being upset, and that's okay, because that's what they're there for. That's what our family's there for us to lean on them when we're struggling or something's hurting. And so there is times where I do have to bring it home, because it's not going to just disappear, and those times I lean on the one closest to me, which is my fiance. And
shout out to him real quick. He, even when I was at my worst, he was always just a stand-up man of integrity. And he didn't, like, with me, he didn't have to be. And I have much love for him and you for that. Like, he's a great man.
Yeah.
Absolutely great man.
I mean, I remember what?
One of the hardest things for me, like, in those situations, was I would continually, I didn't know how to just leave it there. Like, every case was so personal to me.
They're always going to be. There has to be a time where you shut it off, and then when you wake up the next day, it turns right back on, and it's like, okay, what else do I need to do now? It doesn't ever just go away forever or disappear. Like, you're gonna have those times where it's like, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep now, but I know when I wake up in the morning, I'm gonna be doing this again. And that's okay, as long as you have support on the outside, and home, you make it through those tough times. And I haven't been to one call that has been easy. So
I have some comments coming in. Greg Winter says, good job getting clean. I could be honest and tell you that I've never touched a drug, so I don't know what it's like to go through all that. But I do know that for a fact, we go through everything for a reason. Everyone has to go through the storm to be beautiful within. Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that comment. Beth said, Amanda, thank you for the hope and for being there for the fellow addict. I admire you and am working towards being in a similar role. I graduate college in December of 2022 with my BA in Human Services. I also want to get into case management. And I will, God willing, celebrate 18 months this Sunday. We do recover. Praise God for that. Because we do recover. That's amazing.
Great job, Beth.
Misty says, yes, that's the truth. If when I was at my worst, Lance was always a stand-up guy. Amanda, thanks for sharing. I'm coming up on 6 years, September 6th, and grateful for drug court. See that? This is day number 2 of recovery, and my heart feels so full because of this. This is what it's about for me.
Yeah.
Now, police support recovery walk. Let's talk about
it. The walk to remember.
The walk to remember.
Yes. So I started that in 2016. And the reason I wanted to involve police was because, oh, look, you say hi.
Hey, guys.
Oh, there he is. What's up, player?
What's up, man?
How you doing, sir?
You know about those? Is he on by himself? Or
No, we're live.
Oh, man.
I got a couple of them. It's buy one, get one free today, player.
Yeah, I know.
So the reason why I wanted to involve police was because, when my dad died, there wasn't a lot of education being brought to the town of Phillipsburg. And I literally went to town council and I was like, there needs to be more education. I went door to door in Phillipsburg, and this is before I even had the police report recovery or I was even hired by Warren County at the time. I literally was just going door to door and asking people about the Samaritan law and things like that, because I realized nobody did. And that was a huge problem for me. And so that's why I did the stand up against heroin. And then I wanted to involve the police because in my recovery journey, if it wasn't for them, because I didn't have support and I had a father who was addicted to drugs and things like that, I wouldn't have been where I was. And, those officers were not judgmental. They were trying to tell me that I can live a better life. And, so that's why I started that, because, there's so much stigma in everything around that I wanted to bring the police department in to show that we can recover and we can work on the same team to help other people. Definitely. That's why I created that, and around Overdose Awareness Day to show respect and support for the people, the police who deliver the Narcan, and for the people who did lose loved ones, and for the officers who did try to save their lives. They're the ones on scene that have to deal with all that. Right. So as a community, it involves all of us. So when one goes down, we all kind of do. So that's why I started that, and mainly because losing my dad and trying to show that there are people in recovery, there are people doing the right thing, and this is how you can do the next right thing.
And I've been to, I think, all but one, and it's an absolute amazing event. There's another walk coming up. I believe it's August. If you can give the date and the time.
August 28th. And registration is at 9 a.m. at Chappelle Park. We always have free breakfast, free drinks to give out, free t-shirts. I haven't picked the color this year, so if anybody's trying to ask, I'm not telling. It's always a surprise. So, but I am going to do something like I did last year with the t-shirts. So they're going to be colorful. And like I said to you before, I want a sea of color coming up the street so that people can see what we're doing, and say, hey, that looks like I want to be a part of that. I want to learn about what they're doing. And that's why we're so colorful.
Thank you so much. Let me tell you, and I'm not going to keep you all night. I like to keep the episode short. We're in that attention deficit era to where if it's too long, we lose people's attention. But I just want to thank you for all the work that you do in the recovery community and all the help that you provide.
You as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Amanda, before we go, is there anything I always ask people, because I usually ask questions, but tonight I just let you come on and tell your story. And I appreciate that, because most of the time people don't get a chance to actually hear firsthand what we go through to get where we're at. Yeah. Is there anything you want to ask me before we get out of here?
Can't think of anything. Nice. I'm excited to see you come speak on August 28th.
It should be amazing.
That you're going to be there.
I shared the flyer, and I did not tell anybody that I'm going to be speaking at the event, but I guess we could say, yes, I'm going to be speaking at the event. I like to give back what was so freely given to me anonymously, and I just show up and speak. I'm not in this for the round of applause or the pat on the back. I'm just happy that God has put me in the position to help other people.
Well, thank you for doing what you do.
Most definitely. Amanda, thank you very much for coming on tonight. You've been an absolute amazing guest. Hey, Lance, thank you back there for all the things that you do for the community. If you can hear me.
He can hear you.
Thank you guys very much. This has been another episode of Spittin' with Spitter. Amanda, have a great evening. We'll see you guys next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Have a good night.